Let me ask you, from a 1 to 100, or from a 1 to a 10, how much does it piss you off when people try to speak to you in Spanish in Brazil? Like, because they think that Brazilians speak Spanish like the rest of Latin America.
100.
It's us.
Is everyone in Brazil speaks Spanish? I really wanted to highlight this one because I think is a huge misconception. Let me ask you this. From a 1 to 100, or from a 1 to a 10, how much does it piss you off when people try to speak to you in Spanish in Brazil? Like, because they think that Brazilians speak Spanish like the rest of Latin America.
100.
Because I can tell it rubs you guys off the wrong way. Because I remember I was talking to this one friend of mine from, or I wouldn't say friend, it was more an acquaintance. And I first met her like a while ago, and I was speaking to her in Spanish, right? But I wasn't speaking to her in Spanish because I was ignorant and thought that you guys speak Spanish in Brazil. I was speaking to her in Spanish because I'm like, all right, maybe she will understand this more than English. And she was like, no falo español. En Brasil, falamos portugués.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and for those of you guys who don't understand what that means we don't speak Spanish, we speak Portuguese in Brazil. And she was upset. And I've seen other Brazilian people get upset when they think that people over there speak Spanish. And I was like, no, they're prideful and they're Portuguese. They speak Portuguese. Sure, a lot more of them speak Spanish than English. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's the second language over there. Like, you'll find more people speaking in Spanish than English over there. But still, it's Spanish isn't really a language over there. They understand it, but it's not a language. So what's your opinion on that?
Well, I get really mad and annoyed and irritated when people try to speak Spanish with me, and I'll just go like, I can't speak Spanish. I just can't speak Spanish.
No falo español.
So yeah. So what do you speak? And I'm like, Portuguese, because Brazil was colonized by Portugal, and our first language is Portuguese. So the countries around, they all speak Spanish, but we do not. So I even give them a brief history lesson, but I get really mad.
Oh, she's a history teacher too, guys. She's a history teacher too. I just found that out right now.
No. But I get really annoyed. And one time, I used to live in a shared house here in São Paulo. As soon as I came here, I went to live in a mansion with 17 people. And they were all gringos.
Oh, gringos.
Yeah, half of the house was Brazilian and the other half was like gringos. And some people do make an effort to learn Portuguese. And so some people just want to live in Brazil and not speak Portuguese at all. And they use Spanish. It made me so mad. So annoyed.
I know.
Because even the basic things like tudo bem, tudo freaking bem, and that's all. And they become like tudo bien. I honestly would just ignore it because that would make me so irritated.
Camila's about to smack someone. She's like, what you say? We speak Portuguese.
I don't smack. I smack in my head because I can't smack like for real, but in my head I do spank people sometimes.
Yeah, he's probably trying to spank, smack me. I would say,
No.
because sometimes I speak to you a lot in Portuguese. Because we'll do lessons, and I'm over here talking to you in purely Spanish because it's so difficult for me as a Spanish person to convert to Portuguese. I feel like if I didn't know Spanish, I think it might have been easier for me to learn Portuguese because it's new, it's fresh. But because Spanish and Portuguese are somewhat alike, it's so difficult for me to let go of Spanish and talk Portuguese.
No.
Pero let me ask you this though, Camila, because this is a very interesting question that I love asking Brazilian people. But do you feel like Brazilians are kind of like the black sheep of Latin America because you guys don't speak Spanish?
I kind of think
Look at that laugh at her.
I love that. See, I love that. We're so unique. We do not speak Spanish. Or oh my gosh, I can say all of the things that I want to say because people are going to.
No. Go ahead. Listen, this podcast is called Real Talk. You can say
Real
what you
talk,
want.
right?
You can curse.
Be canceled. Be canceled. But we're the best.
No, you ain't gonna get canceled. You ain't gonna get canceled, Camila, because if they try to cancel you, they'll cancel me too. Because we're both.
Oh God, I don't want to ruin your podcast.
No, I don't care.
But I do think that we are the best because we're the most unique. I said it.
That's kind of arrogant, Camila.
I know, right? I know, but I love it. I feel like a peacock because we're the best.
But you know what? I will. This is what I'm gonna say about Brazilian people, and why I'll defend your statement there. Because there was a post that I saw about this one Brazilian girl that lives in America, and she was saying that yeah, Brazilians are the black sheep of Latin America because people can't really connect to Brazilians because of the Portuguese.
Yeah.
And even the music in Brazil is amazing. Well, I don't know how you feel because you like Mariah Carey. But
I just don't like funk. I
funk.
don't gosto de funk. I don't like funk. I don't gosto.
But funky, samba, the EDM music, the
Samba's-
electronic music down there, the pop music. There's so much good music in Brazil, but nobody aside from Anitta has been able to
Out of Brazil.
Yeah, because the problem is of the Portuguese. Anitta was like, all right, I'm fluent in English, I'm fluent in Spanish and Portuguese. Why not make music in all three languages? And that's why she's so big, because she was able to connect to Latin America and, of course, connect to America. But one thing that girl said that I thought was very interesting was she said that Brazilians are have an advantage over Spanish people. Because the thing is, and this goes back to your statement about Brazilians being melhores.
Melhores. That's correct. It's correct.
Melhor. Okay, see, I'm learning. Because the thing is, you guys can understand Spanish to an extent. However, as soon as a Brazilian opens their mouth speaking to a Spanish person in Portuguese, we're like, what?
You can understand? Really?
We can't understand Portuguese.
Oh, that's new. I didn't know.
You guys
I thought we could understand each other.
Huh?
I honestly, genuinely thought we could understand each other.
I mean, we can to an extent, which is why when we speak in Portuguese, I can understand what you're saying. Because I can understand it's in bits of what you're saying, but it's harder for a Spanish person to understand a Portuguese speaker than the other way around. So if I were to speak to you, so si yo estoy hablando con usted en español, me entiende, ¿verdad?
Claro.
Sí, porque es similario a portugués. Pero cuando me fala en portugués, no entiendo mucho.
That's why I speak slow.
Sí, no puede hablar como well, I'm talking Spanish now. Pero si me fala en el acento carioca, no entiendo.
You don't get the Carioca accent?
Well, let me correct myself. I meant more of the Paulista accent. That's what I meant. My bad. But Carioca, I can understand Carioca because they over-exaggerate everything when they talk.
Yeah.
They over-exaggerate.
Open. And Cariocas tend to speak slower because there's rhythm to it.
It's like it's almost like they're in a beach with a caipirinha. Beach with a freaking caipirinha, like boa tarde, like the way they speak. It's almost like you guys are having fun speaking when you speak.
Yeah, it's a whole vibe. I have to be honest. Even though I do have the rhythm, I don't have as much rhythm compared to a person who grew up in the city. But I don't think it's related to the fact that I grew up in the countryside, in a rural zone, because I have some family members who speak just like me, and I don't. But I do have some of the rhythm. It's just not as exaggerated, I think.
Well, yeah, that's the cool part is I feel like even if you're from the state of Rio, I feel like parts of it, like the countryside and the city side, probably like act differently, they speak differently, even if you're from the state. It's same thing over here in New York, New Jersey, to where depending on the area you go, people can speak way different over here, you know, even though we're from the same state or same area.
Não entende muito do que está sendo dito devido ao idioma, à língua. Vocês, I use the Paulista accent. Vocês podem ir nas configurações do YouTube e aí vocês trocam o idioma. Vocês podem colocar as legendas em português e aí tudo que a gente está falando aqui em inglês vocês vão ouvir em português. Vocês vão ler em português. Então é só colocar, depois que a gente já tiver saído da live, vocês colocam as legendas em português e vocês vão ter a tradução de tudo. That's it.
Entendi. But I just think it's funny. I'm beginning to understand it because you know what I do, Camila? For any of you guys that are trying to learn Portuguese or any language in general, Spanish, doesn't matter. Try to hear more music about that language. Try to see more TV shows movies, interviews. When you're watching sports, instead of watching or hearing English commentary or whatever, I can't even say that word. Do it in Spanish or Portuguese. So the more you listen to a language being spoken, the more you understand it, the more it makes your life easy, because I feel like understanding a language is half the battle. If you can understand it, you can kind of formulate some words to communicate. But if you
Yeah.
no entiende nada,
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
kind of screwed, you know, like because
Uh-huh.
you can't even you don't even know how to respond because you don't
Yeah.
understand, you
Understand is
know.
the first step.
See, but I think it's hilarious, Camila, how again, I gotta come at you a little bit, but in a funny, not in a bad way, by the way, not to offend you. But I just think it's funny, and you only been in Sao Paulo for a year, but you just completely forgot your
I
Carioca.
know everybody like kind of pokes me about it because I've been here for like a year, but my accent changed. And I know people who've been here, like living here for 30 years, 40 years, and they speak like they have always spoken. Always. It's the same thing. And I changed my accent so fast. I don't know why it happened. I guess I'm adaptable.
You know what could be? Maybe I don't know. I'm trying to come up with an excuse for you because I think isn't the Paulista accent easier? Like, cause it's to the point, isn't it? It's kind of cut up instead of Cariocas where you guys exaggerate everything you
It
say.
is easier.
So that's probably why, because it's like to the point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more subtle. I feel like
Hmm.
it's easier. It sounds lighter, I would say.
You see, Camila, I got your back.
Thank
I
you.
got your back. I'm not gonna just diss
You
you and
poke
then
me and then you stand up for me. Thank you.
you see, that's what it's all about. You know, but estou brincando, amiga.
Eu
Estou
sei.
brincando.
Tô dançando sem você, só como o vento e a chuva arder. Tão pouco amor, nem dá pra ver. E eu danço, danço.
Sogra na minha frente.
Fica de quatro,
Ela fica de quatro, fica de quatro, fica de quatro,
fica de quatro,